Hello everyone, my name is Marek Stefan, I'm an editor-in-chief in Układ Sił magazine, and today my guest is Mr. Phillip A. Petersen, president of the New Generation Warfare Center in United States. Hello, sir. I want to start our conversation to the question about what is the biggest challenge for the eastern or maybe the front of NATO in this part of Europe, especially from the operational point of view. States like Poland, the Baltic states, are on the front line, so this is a crucial, important thing for us.
Exactly, and as far as I'm concerned, you're already ahead of the game because you understand that it's a front and it's not a flank. So we need to continue to change that psychology amongst people, not just in the states in the front, from Svalbard in the north to Italy in the Central Med, but also the rest of the states, in particular, Germany, France, the Netherlands. We need them to understand that Russia is at war with us today. And this is part of its new generation war, which has 9 elements, but can be divided into 3 broad sections. One is non-kinetic, which we tend to refer to as hybrid warfare. But the Russians say hybrid warfare is not what they do, it's what NATO does. They call it new generation warfare, or warfare of a new type. And so there's the non-kinetic war, and as a matter of fact, I just had an article printed just this week here in Poland on this book, which is called Information, Media, Security, and Environment, and it's the first chapter, and it's called Unmaking America Great Again. And it's about how the Russians have so manipulated the West, and in particular the United States. The media tends to, the internet has allowed so much information to be generated about each individual that you can do micro-targeting on propaganda. And so, for example, in the United States, they have been very successful at mobilizing the issue of race in America. It's our biggest weakness. So that's non-kinetic warfare. Then we have kinetic warfare, which we think of more in terms of classical warfare. And then the 9th element is nuclear warfare, which we don't want to talk about anywhere, including in the United States. But it leaves us at a distinct disadvantage vis-a-vis Moscow.
Okay. Before we start recording, you mentioned about that in NATO we need more discuss about not only the Article 5, but more about Article 3. Could you elaborate more in this topic?
Well, the Russians' idea of using overt classical warfare is to essentially end the war, which has already taken place. So the war itself, from their vision, is a non-kinetic war in which a perfect example is what they did in Crimea, where there was very little actual fighting because nobody understood at the time what was happening. And so they will try to mobilize our masses to create chaos, and essentially they will decompose NATO and individual countries like Poland from within. And this is a technique that Putin brought from his experience in East Germany. When he learned this technique from the Stasi, which was employing it against individuals, he's just elevated the game and he's playing it against nations and the entire NATO alliance. So if he has his way, he wins the war without getting to Article 5. So we need to start looking at other forms of assistance like Article 3 because that's where the game is being played today.
Mr. Petersen, you are an old Cold Warrior. You know Russia, you know Soviet Union, and you know Russia strategic culture. So if you could compare what happened now on the front of NATO in this part of Europe with the situation in the Cold War, the first Cold War, because now we have a Cold War between United States and China too. But if you compare this situation on the front of NATO and in the Cold War, what is where is the similarities and maybe we have some more differences?
Well, I am a Cold Warrior. I take pride in that. As a matter of fact, the Russians in the pages of Krasnaya Zvezda called me a running dog of capitalism during the era of Ronald Reagan. And they couldn't appreciate what a favor that was for me at that time in the Reagan administration to be called a running dog of capitalism. But there are some lessons to be learned, but like everything in history, technology advances things. So one of the things I mentioned today was if a classic type war, a shooting war breaks out between Russia and NATO, the first thing the Russians would do is try to suppress NATO's aviation, its fixed-wing aviation, because by their assessments, 50 or more percent of NATO's firepower is delivered by fixed-wing aviation. So you significantly alter the correlation of forces if you can suppress NATO's aircraft at the main operating bases. That game used to be called the воздушная операция, the air operation, but now it's the aerospace operation because so many other elements, particularly space-based elements, are brought to bear to suppress those airfields. So, yes, it's similar to the past, but it's different because technology makes it so.
Thank you, sir, for this conversation.
You're welcome.